All right, Nuggets fans, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BETONLINE. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I apologize for being a little bit delayed today. I am tired. This has been a pretty difficult start to 2025 just from an energy standpoint. But we're moving. We're doing well. Thank you for popping in. Really appreciate you guys stopping by. If you do, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really appreciate it. We've got a great one to talk about today. Jamal Murray goes off last night for 45 points in the Nuggets' big win over the Dallas Mavericks. What a huge game. What a huge win for Denver for a number of reasons that I will get into in the second segment. We'll do two segments today, but just a tremendous thing for Denver in general and a tremendous moment for Jamal Murray, who had been struggling by his own admission on the TNT broadcast last night. Just good to see. Just really good to see him step up in this moment, have a good moment for himself. And I think the rest of the team was very excited about it too. So we'll get into it all. Absolutely. Really appreciate everybody for stopping by. Snow Wolf is here. I guess the Blue Arrow was here all along, just waiting to strike. Dayon is here. 3 good games out of 33. Jamal played this season. Will not convince me he is back. I need a better sample size. I think that's understandable. I get it, but come on, bask in the glory a little bit. Have some fun with it. Cedric is obviously here. Good game by the Blue Arrow. And then 42 Ultra is here. Not just you. I assume that's responding to Dayon. So, look, I totally get the hesitancy. We were just talking about how he's going to be inconsistent. So this is part of it. This is obviously part of that song and dance. And we'll get into why. And we'll obviously... I think all the Nuggets fans understand that, but you still got to appreciate the ups and the downs. And I'm going to bask in this for a little bit. I'm going to have some fun with it for sure. Real quickly, this podcast, as you know, it's brought to you by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, and more. BetOnline is your number one sports betting source for the new year. BetOnline has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Let's get into it. We're going to talk about Murray. We'll talk about the rest of the team a little bit. Probably just go over the game in the first segment. It'll go for about 15, 20 minutes or so. This is going to be a shorter show. And then in the second segment, we will get into why this game was a big deal and then talk about the game tonight against the Houston Rockets, because there ain't no rest for the weary, folks. And everybody here is weary, let me tell you. But we're going to have a good time with it. Let's talk about Jamal, who had 19 points in the first quarter alone. And then rather than slow down, he had 32 at halftime, 32 points. That is so many points. It's the third most by any player in the NBA this season in a first half. And just a tremendous opportunity for him. I thought that he was going to struggle in this game. I thought that just coming off of the knee inflammation, coming off of a pretty tough performance against Dallas previously, he had matched up with the same defenders a couple of days before and really struggled to get his space. He generated so much space last night, and it was very, very impressive to watch. Cedric pops in with a super chat. He says, does Jamal love proving his haters wrong, Ryan? Absolutely. I love proving my haters wrong. I think that's a pretty common thing, but with Jamal especially, he really basks in it. He absolutely just enjoys it, tries to go for it every single time. Sometimes he doesn't care about it. Sometimes he does. But he clearly reads the stuff. He clearly understands what's being said about him. And he definitely loves to give people the business when they don't give him the benefit of the doubt. That has clearly happened several times before. Jo says, "You're still one of my fave media people, even though you could be trifling sometimes." Trifling. Oh man. Well, I appreciate it anyway. Thank you. Um, but hey, I mean, knee inflammation Jamal was dealing with, and it didn't look like he was that bothered, honestly. He took some anti-inflammatories per his messaging in in the TNT post game, and I thought that that was a pretty funny comment. And then inflammation went down, probably felt a little bit more comfortable. It's more of a pain tolerance thing, according to him. And he was able to play through it and make it work. And I think he had some extra motivation given the way that he had played the previous game against Dallas. He knew that he wasn't up to his standard or what he wanted to bring, but he went above and beyond the standard, man. I think every Nuggets fan would have been like, all right, 30 plus points. Awesome. That's great. Second time this season. Great. But he didn't stop there. He went for 45 and he got the 30 in the first half. And that's just a tremendous showing of explosiveness and the scoring that you're looking for from Jamal on a consistent basis. And like, it's something that had been missing, if I'm going to be honest. Like, only having scored 30 points once previously this year, Jamal is the only guy on the roster, Michael Porter Jr. included, outside of Nikola Jokic, who can go off for these crooked totals, who has the scoring capability. And a lot of it is because Porter doesn't operate with the ball in his hands. Opposing teams can really over-index on trying to prevent him from getting touches off ball. How many times has Porter even had like 30 plus in his career? It's not a ton, and or not as many as you would want for it to be. I don't think he's had it any time this year, despite the fact that he's been extremely consistent. For Murray, he's been inconsistent, but the highs are so much higher from a volume standpoint because he can handle the ball, he can create, he can run the two-man game with Jokic, and their chemistry is obviously just so good. But now, in what Russ has added to this group, and what the Nuggets as a whole have added to this group, Christian Brown running in transition, Jokic really trying to push it. Everybody's trying to get fast break points. And that's where some of Murray's points came from this time, where he's just generating some easy baskets for himself by running, by simply getting out and getting an advantageous bucket. And it's awesome. I also really appreciated from Murray's performance how he took the open three and didn't really hesitate. He generated them. He didn't work that hard to generate the threes. And that's what you want if you're a Nuggets fan. You want to see him taking more threes. You want to see him having more opportunities, going off and trying to get as many of those three-pointers up as possible, because if he has to work so hard to get his shot on every single possession, he's just going to wear down. So it was great to see him take the simple relocation three, take the pull-up three in transition. He did that multiple times, relocating off of a screen and finding an opportunity for himself. It's just great. It's great to watch. And it really highlights that, hey, when he is on, he is still one of the most accurate jump shooters in the NBA. He can get hot. And he obviously can get hot. But more than anything, he is a guy that shot over 42% from three last year. He can do that. He can go off. And he's always been a great mid-range shooter. But he hadn't, he was doing it from a volume perspective this year, not from an efficiency standpoint. This time they went in, he got to his spots. He was just not touching any of the rim on these shots. They were all going down. He clearly had it dialed, and it was just really, really impressive to watch. So is it going to happen again tonight? Probably not. Nuggets fans have to brace for that. They have to be okay with that, because he's just probably not going to always be able to put this up. But the great thing about being able to put it up every once in a while is that you get games like last night from Jokic, where he only had to score 10 points, where he only had to take 7 shots, where he wasn't over-indexed and trying to be the MVP on every single night. That's how the Nuggets become the best version of themselves. It's when everybody can step up, can take some burden off of Nikola, and when Nikola can go into the playoffs as fresh as possible. So I thought it was pretty awesome. I thought it was pretty great to see. And yes, Himmis says, yes, Ryan, keep doubting. Jinx it. There's no way that Murray puts up back-to-back 30-point games. I don't see it. Houston is just such a talented defensive team. I don't see it. I don't think that there's any way that they can do it. 42 Ultra says, love the phrase crooked total you always use last night on Locked On. Bubba Murray had us thinking that he might be better than Jokic. If he could be anywhere close to that again, it's Ship City. Look, I said it last night too. And the crooked totals thing, I think it's one of those where, think about it from this perspective. Everybody in the game last night put up 13 points or fewer, except for Murray, who put up 45. Like, first of all, it's the first time in NBA history that has ever been done, where you put up 45 points and nobody else in the game puts up as many as 15. First time in NBA history that has ever happened. But that's what I mean by crooked totals. It's what I mean where, hey, you look at the box score and you're like, okay, well, we held that guy down, we held that guy down, we held that guy down. Oh my God, that guy had 40? That was probably the issue. And Murray has the capability of doing that. He hasn't been doing it consistently. To his own admission, he hasn't been as consistent as he needs to be and hasn't been as good as he needs to be. Like, even with this game, he's still not over the 20-point per game threshold on the season. With that in mind, could this be a springboard moment for him to get a little bit more consistently into those totals? I don't know. It's hard for me to predict that positively and say, yes, absolutely. Like, anybody that says that they can predict that positively is probably lying to you. But I think everybody, if Nuggets fans want to see it happen, Nuggets players and coaches and personnel and everybody around it want to see it happen. Everybody wants him to find that opportunity. So we will see whether he can. We'll see whether he can capitalize on it. The best version of the Nuggets is the one where Murray is playing like this, where he can take some pressure off and do what he needs to do to make the game easier for those around him. We'll see whether it continues. Jokic, casual triple-double, 10 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists, only had 7 shots, like I mentioned. That's what you want to see on the front end of a back-to-back. I expect him to go off in this game tonight against the Houston Rockets. They're going to have a lot of pressure on them, especially on the perimeter with the defensive capabilities of Amin Thompson and Dylan Brooks. Fred VanVleet's a smart defender. They've got a whole bunch of guys off the bench that can mix and match and do different things. But Jokic matching up with Alperen Şengün will be different. So I'll save that for the second segment. I think that Denver is in a good spot to win tonight. Whether they actually do or not remains to be seen. But Jokic, like, he was happy as a lark on the bench, man. He had the legs crossed. He was leaning back. He was chatting with the coaching staff, chatting with his teammates, and just very happy to see the fourth quarter unfold the way that it did. Now, Denver let that lead get down to 14 points, and it wasn't the best thing for them. I thought that Jokic would have to come back in. Michael Malone stayed disciplined. The Nuggets pushed it back up. Murray got up over the 45-point threshold, and it was curtains after that. So really nice to see Denver get a game where Jokic only has to play 29 points and doesn't have to do too much. Also, this was a good one for everybody just kind of getting out of the way of Jamal. That's how I would describe this. Michael Porter took 9 shots. Russell Westbrook, he did take 11, but I don't think that he was over aggressive. There were a couple times that he took a pull-up jumper that maybe I disagreed with, but there were also a couple of possessions where he just kind of missed a layup around the rim and then tried to rebound it and missed it around the rim. So, like, it really wasn't that many possessions that he took up. Christian Brown only took 6 shots. Murray took 26. And the reason why, obviously, is everybody's like, feed Jamal, feed him. Like, look at what he's doing right now. Let's see how far he can take it. And I think everybody was pretty happy to watch that. Everybody was pretty happy to see it. And it was very clear that it wasn't just Jokic who was trying to get out of the way. Westbrook was trying to set him up. Michael Porter was giving him back the ball on consistent possessions and thought, you know what? Let's go. Let's see what you got, Jamal. And I think everybody is just pretty happy for him in this moment. It was pretty cool to see. And yes, the bench needs to be better. I did not think that the bench was good last night. They ran Westbrook with the bench in the first half, and then they ran Murray with the bench in the second half, just kind of getting back to that normal rotation. Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, Aaron Gordon, DeAndre Jordan. Couple good moments for DeAndre, of course. Good rebounding moments. Also a couple turnovers. Also a couple missteps, of course, on the defensive end. Peyton Watson still needs to finish a little bit better. Aaron Gordon, only 2 of 9, taking a lot of jumpers right now. And then Julian Strawther's getting hunted. So there's stuff to talk about. There's stuff to figure out. Denver's going to have to be better, but I think that they can be. I think that this is a good opportunity for them to really step back up in this game against Houston tonight. What they did against Dallas, really impressive. And finally, I should talk about the defense. 99 points they allowed, and Kyrie Irving shot 4 of 18. Big reason for that was Christian Brown, but other guys can take credit for that as well. Jamal Murray even stepped up and played pretty good defense on him. Peyton Watson chased him around. Russell Westbrook chased him around. Lots of guys had to switch out off of screens, and including Jokic. I thought everybody played pretty good defense against Kyrie. There were a couple tough shots that he made, but he shot 4 of 18 and only had 11 points. And that was really the game because Spencer Dinwiddie, the game before, had created so many good shots for his teammates. Kyrie didn't. He had 2 assists. And it was really impressive to see Denver kind of run that offense really well. Now, Derek Lively did go out, and I wonder if this game would be a little bit closer if Lively had stayed in. I've got a stat for you guys, and it's why I still think that Dallas is clearly a contender, despite the fact that Denver didn't really struggle with them over the course of these last couple. When Luka's on the floor, when Kyrie's on the floor, and when Derek Lively is on the floor, they have a plus 20 net rating. Plus 20 in 400 possessions. It's not a ton of possessions, but it shows that the level is still there for them. And that's just their 2 stars and their starting center. That's what it is. Lively is big enough that he can compete with Jokic. Will Jokic still score, do all those things? Yes, but he'll have to battle a little bit. It's kind of like going up against Jared Allen on a consistent basis. Yes, you can score. Yes, you can do those things. But Lively's going to get it back on the other end, and he's also going to challenge Joker from a length and physicality standpoint. So I still think that Dallas is a clear contender, which is why this game was so big. And I'll talk about that on the other side. When we come back, we're going to chat about why this Nuggets matchup with the Mavericks and winning these 2 games was such a big deal. And then we'll pivot over to Nuggets Rockets tonight. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll. Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you enjoy. Would really appreciate that. Let's talk about why this game mattered. Denver, of course, played a 2-game set against Dallas. And in 3 previous occasions that they had done it, they had split every single time. Dallas had done this one time previously, and they had split that matchup too. And that was against, I think, the Clippers. Denver did this against Dallas, San Antonio. They've done it against other teams. They did it against Memphis without Joker. And then there was one other time that I don't remember. But Denver had done this multiple times, and it split everything every single time. It is really difficult to win both games in a 2-game set in the NBA against a team that is pretty close to you in talent. And Denver did it anyway. Denver made it happen. And it was great to see because Denver is now 3-1 against Dallas. They won that tiebreaker, and that could really matter in the standings. That could really, really matter. I know that I keep saying that, and people are like, okay, that's fine, but it's still like game 38, game 40, and Denver's got a couple of games on Dallas. What if Luka comes back and Kyrie is back and Derek Lively's healthy and they go on a run? What if when those guys come back in February, they go 20-2 and Denver is like, all right, we're pretty good. We're going to go 14-6. Well, you still lost 4 games in the standings at that point, despite the fact that 14-6 would be a great record, 70% win rate. But Dallas is capable of doing that, especially when they are healthy because of how much talent they have. And they will be trying to make up ground when Luka does come back. And he'll come back probably early February, I would guess. So if Denver can stay ahead of Dallas, that's a big deal in the Western Conference playoff picture because I'm looking at these standings. OKC's 1. They are not going to get caught. They're going to get Chet Holmgren back at some point, and they are going to roll. Like, they're absolutely going to continue to roll. They already have been rolling. They've won 84.6% of their games. That's crazy. Houston is 26-12. Could they falter? Could they fall back to earth a little bit? Yes, but they're also one of those teams that reminds me of the Nuggets back in 2019, where they've got a lot of talent and they've got a lot of depth. They've got a lot of different places where they're going to get wins. So I think they're probably going to stay above the 50-win threshold or pretty close to it. So if that's the case, then Denver's going to have to be competing with them and has to exceed 50 in order to pass them. Memphis is effectively the same thing. They're 5-5 in their last 10, but I still think that they're a pretty talented team as well. Their point differential is crazy, plus 7.7, and like they just look like a team that is still very capable. They haven't been healthy for much of their season and have still won anyway. Like, people don't really appreciate that Memphis is 5th in the NBA in net rating at plus 7.8 on cleaning the glass. They are 5th in offense and 5th in defense, and they haven't had John Morant for most of the time. So Denver's got their work cut out for them if they're going to try to avoid the OKC side of the bracket. They've also got some work if they want to make sure that they're avoiding the play-in, because yes, Denver has 15 losses. Yes, it looks like they've separated a little bit. The Clippers have 17 losses at 5th. The Mavericks have 18 losses at 6th. The Lakers have 17 losses at 7th. They have their percentage points lower than Dallas. And then Minnesota has 18 losses at 8th. So they are like it's within 3 games, within 3 losses. If Denver just goes on any little bit of a skid, they're back in here in the mix for the play-in. So this was big. This was really big. This could have swung the other direction. And like, let's say Dallas have won both of these games, which I know people would be mad about that, but it wouldn't have been that surprising. Denver and Dallas would basically be flipped in the standings right now. And so I'm pretty impressed with the way that the Nuggets have handled themselves of late. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. They have moved and looked pretty well, looked pretty good. And it just looks like they're rounding into form a little bit. They're getting help from a variety of different places. Aaron Gordon is back. He's not fully ramped up, obviously, but he's providing some extra stability. And then Peyton Watson, I think, has been consistent of late. Christian Brown's found his stride a little bit over the last 5 games or so. And it just feels like the Nuggets are getting more contributions from more places. Will that continue? They're still young. And Denver, of course, is a very inconsistent team, highlighted by Murray. So I don't know if they're going to keep getting it done, but it does feel like they are trending way up. So much so to the point, though, you can start talking about championship conversations with this. And it's why I'm talking about manipulating the playoff picture, putting themselves into the best possible situation, the best possible bracket for them to be successful. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. But Denver should be trying to get the best path for themselves. And that path probably avoids playing the 65 to 70 win OKC Thunder at the end of the year if you can avoid it. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Denver gets the tiebreaker over Dallas. They're 3-1 in that. And if Denver and Dallas are tied at the end of the year in the standings, then Denver moves ahead. That could be massive. All right. What to expect from Nuggets Rockets tonight? This will be the final thing that we talk about. Nuggets and Rockets are, like, obviously it's 2 versus 4 in the Western Conference. Houston they've won 4 in a row. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games as well. They are, gosh, is that right? They are 9th in offense and 3rd in defense on cleaning the glass. And so much of that is Amen Thompson. I talked about this last night on Locked On. Amen Thompson is the guy that you should be watching for if you are wondering why the Rockets are so good. It's because they have a second-year player who has leveled up his game to tremendous levels. On the season, Amen Thompson has started just 9 games. Jabari Smith has been their starter at power forward for most of the year. But Amen Thompson is now stepping in, 12.6 points, 7.7 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 1.2 steals, 1.1 blocks as a second-year guard. And he's really now transitioning into a forward role because of his size, because of his athleticism. He's 6'7". He's the most athletic player in the entire NBA. And I'm going to go to his splits as a starter because they are a little bit more crazy, if I recall. As a starter so far this season, Amen Thompson, 17.2 points, 11.0 rebounds, 3.1 assists. He has 20 blocks in 9 games and 15 steals in 9 games. So everything is just through the roof, and his true shooting is even higher than it was before. He is dynamic. He is tremendous. And I tend to think that Denver will probably struggle with him. This is going to be a matchup where they're going to need to figure out, all right, we probably have to guard that guy. It's probably not just Michael Porter Jr. It might have to be Christian Brown or Russell Westbrook. And I'm very curious how Russell Westbrook handles a guy that's more athletic than him, which is wild to say because Westbrook for a long time has been the premier athlete in the NBA. So it will be interesting to see. But Houston is going to be dynamic. Murray's going to have a tough time again because Thompson is young and fresh, and he's not coming off of a back-to-back where he had 45 like Murray is. So I'm curious to see how they handle it. Don't Tell Santa Cruz says, Amen stopped Shea to 15 points. He's one of the best defenders. Absolutely. The numbers, I think, underscore, they don't fully appreciate how good he is on the defensive end. I heard Sam Vecini, who I respect, he's at The Athletic. I heard him say that Amen is one of the best defenders, one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA already. That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough for Denver. But obviously, Murray doesn't have to be the guy this time. Michael Porter could be the guy. Nikola Jokic could be the guy. There's plenty of opportunity. Last year, I think Nikola Jokic averaged 20. Actually, no, he averaged way crazier numbers than that against the Rockets. I'm actually going to look that up here really quick because there were a couple of times where Jokic didn't have Murray, where he had to really put the team on his back a little bit. Okay, yeah. Against the Houston Rockets last year, he averaged 32.3 points per game, 16.5 rebounds, 9.8 assists. He wasn't his most efficient self, but he had a 36.4 usage rate, which is wild. And that was in 4 games. So he's been successful against Houston, and he'll probably have a game kind of similar to that, where he's going to have a lot of possessions. They're going to try to feed him as often as possible, and he's going to try to be as big as he possibly could be against Alperen Şengün. Now, Şengün is good. He will absolutely try to wear out Jokic. He'll try to space him out a little bit. He can grab some offensive rebounds while battling against him. This is going to be a tough one. But Denver, if they're going to win this, Jokic is going to have to play his best game. Not best game, but like a really good game. And then Denver's going to have to shoot well. It's just as simple as that. Houston is third in the entire NBA in defensive rating. And one of the reasons for that, I believe, is that they force a lot of turnovers. If I go to the 4 factors on cleaning the glass, where are they at? Oh, they actually just hold you down on effective field goal percentage. Second in the entire NBA in EFG allowed, and then 7th most turnovers in out of your possession. So this is going to be pretty tough. This is going to be a tough one for Denver. They're going to need to play their best basketball. Fortunately, the Nuggets are 8-0 on the second night of back-to-backs, so I think they understand what it's going to look like. Don't Tell Santa Cruz asks, who's guarding Jalen Green? Great question. No idea. Green is one of those guys that if you let him go off and he has like 30, that could be the difference, because so often in these games against elite defensive teams, that could be the marginal difference. I bet Christian Brown probably guards him. I bet they have Murray guard. I bet they have Murray guard Dylan Brooks. And I bet they have Michael Porter guard Amen Thompson. Or that you could flip those. And actually, no, you're not going to flip those. You're not going to have Murray guard Amen. And I bet Westbrook probably guards Fred VanVleet, who is also a dynamic player that I think a lot of people have forgotten about. In his last 5 games, here are the point totals that Fred VanVleet has put up. I know that he's been playing pretty well. 9 points in the last game, a win against Memphis, but he had 9 assists, 22, 19, 15, and 8. So it actually hasn't been that crazy. I thought he was putting up crazier point totals, but I must be looking at the 19 and 12 game that he had. But Fred VanVleet's good. You can't let him go off, and you can't let Jalen Green go off at the same time. You just have to hold them down as much as possible. That's the way to stop Houston, is to slow down their offense and then just grind out enough possessions on the other end as a scorer as you possibly can. So we will see. We will see what it looks like. But I think, folks, that's probably going to do it. That's going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Apologies for the slight delay on the show today. Needed to recover physically and mentally. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I will talk to you guys tomorrow with a recap episode.